We have Alythia with us here today, and I'm super excited to have you on. So, if you could just start off by telling me about your allergens, how you were diagnosed, and what it's like to live with them today, that would be awesome.
Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited. I haven't actually talked about this subject in a long time because it's been so long. I had my son Cameron in 2014, and this is when all this stuff kind of arose. I had him in September, and things were going really good. And about December, I kind of noticed that maybe things weren't going so good. I was breastfeeding at the time, and he was really fussy and having a couple other symptoms. And I thought that was normal. I was a first time mom, and I went and I took him in for his checkup, and they let me know, no, that is not normal. What are you eating? And I thought I was eating good from what I thought dieting and like eating healthy was, but I really wasn't. So they told me to go get checked out, and I did my exam and everything seemed normal, and they were asking me about my diet and everything just seemed to be okay. And I was like, this, there has to be more, this doesn't make sense. So I went to this website called Everlywell, and they do like the food sensitivity test. They do a bunch of good tests, and I actually got a few tests and they came back and they let me know, and I was just so shocked, but it made sense. I guess when I thought when you had food allergies, I would be breaking out or itchy, but that's not the case. So for my son and for myself, I cut dairy out because that's what came back on my test. Um, I'm more intolerant versus having like an allergy for it. So there's like a difference, and I don't think people know like the difference of that. And so I cut it out, and it was pretty hard at first, but within a week, I felt really good. I noticed that I didn't feel so tired after eating. I felt really light. And then I kept going, and about a month in, I kind of started seeing like the physical effects. I was like, wow, like I'm not really bloated, which was crazy because I felt like I had issues with bloating like my whole life. And then about 3 months in, I switched over to a new job, and the lifestyle was very much like dairy free. My boss actually was just telling me like all these things about it. And I was just like, wow, and I was letting him know about my journey. And I think that that was like the big step, is kind of like changing my surroundings. And it kind of like helps me continue these new habits. I honestly, it's been such a long time. It just feels so normal to me. It's hard to like imagine that I used to just drink milk with my cereal. It like almost makes me grossed out right now. But that's kind of how it started. And then my son, he just did so good with it. And then after, you start researching it and Googling things, and you're just like, how do we not know this? We grow up with our little food pyramid. It's changed now. It's like the little my plate, but it was just like a huge portion of dairy had to be in our lives. And growing up in a Latin family, there's a lot of like meats. I ended up cutting out meat in my diet, and from there just kind of just you just get kind of addicted to being like healthier. I kept feeling better as I eliminated these processed foods, the dairy right away, and it just became more of my identity at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super powerful. So, what would you say it's like to live with it today? And then also, does your son live this lifestyle as well?
He does. Now that he has gone to school, he's 6 now. I think kids around him have kind of introduced that back into his life. But since he's grown up, he's like, I make his lunch, and he's not really too influenced by it. I think it would be really great if he just never had it in his life, so he wouldn't have to like learn how to cut it out, or this just became the norm. I do see as a society, this is kind of going towards that way. Maybe because I choose the people I'm around, it seems more normal to me, and more people choose not to eat dairy. Um, right now, I mean, I do notice it when I go out to eat, but at home, I've learned to have substitutes for everything with my, my cereal. I have like 5 different milks I can choose from, rice milk, coconut, almond milk, hemp seed, flaxseed. So I don't really notice it anymore. And I don't even crave it because I just have like this almost disgust for it. So it doesn't really seem that hard anymore. I will say um, the the meat part, making sure like, and then like food contamination when like other people cook for me, that seems to be like an issue for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, knowing the difference between an intolerance and an allergy, sometimes people with intolerances are sensitive to cross contact and other times they aren't. Are you sensitive to that cross contact from like using the same surfaces or the same pans or
Yeah.
stovetops, things like that?
And it's crazy because a lot of people are like, oh no, like some people who don't really like care for that sensitivity, especially when I go out to eat, they think that I won't know, but I do know like 30 minutes after, like a little bit after. And so it's very discouraging sometimes. But I can tell, I think right away, like my stomach will feel like a little uneasy, and then I just feel like I'm almost hungover
Yeah.
and I don't have the energy. I bet you if I was to continue that and having those things in my body, I would probably feel very sick. Before, I don't think I noticed it because we just kind of live our whole lives like that and you don't know what's wrong because it's your norm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, and we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into this, but when you do have that dairy exposure and you notice it, how does it make you feel that somebody didn't take it super seriously?
It's it depends on if how their intention was. If they were just very careless, I'm upset because they didn't care. But if they just didn't know, there's milk in everything. You would be surprised. And if you don't take the time and if it's not your own journey, you would not know. There was a lot of things I learned the hard way, but either I'm really pissed off because you don't respect me and you don't like you're not I'm putting like trust in you, it's like almost like a distrust, or it's just kind of like I'm forgiving you, I'm going to educate you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that education portion is super important because I've had celiac disease my entire life. And just as, dairy is in everything, gluten is hidden everywhere as well.
Oh
And so
yeah.
unless you live with it, you just don't know how to like read ingredients for those types of things. And it can be really hard to spot.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like a challenge in itself. And I how do you feel when that happens to you? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, I have the same approach as you with the education because I've had it since I was 8. So I just learned how to not take it personally and just educate them. So that is why I'm literally building a whole company around it because I spent my entire life educating others. And so I think it needs to be something that has a greater awareness on a larger scale.
That is great. I'm so excited for you. I love it.
Yeah, so kind of diving deeper into that eating out experience, what is it like for you to eat out? Because there's not always dairy menus or things like that. You usually see gluten and vegan. Do you ever feel like you're forced to eat vegan, or how is it to eat out?
It's not even really enjoyable, honestly. I think that I do it for like the social aspect of it. My boyfriend and I have different views on this, and I don't try to like push things on people. I just like learned. I think that there's like such a stereotype against people with like food sensitivities or allergies, and they kind of like want to make fun. So I just kind of don't even say anything, and I just kind of just go with it because I'm there for like the social aspect of it. When it does come time to order, I'm usually kind of mix and matching and like making my own creation from whatever they have, and it's usually like a salad, like a very plain salad, unless it's just like that's what they're known for, but that's hardly the case. There are some restaurants that I do feel safe at, like Watercourse. I love
Love, of
them,
course.
but how how easy is it to be like, hey everybody, let's go somewhere where there's nothing that you guys like want to eat. I try to convince them, and they're like, it's just not in their they just don't want to, so I don't really force it. So like that's why I choose friends that already have like similar lifestyles of me, so I don't have to like really like convince anybody or like feel like I have to pressure anyone to do something that I solely want to do. I guess I'm just like a very selfless person because I do understand that, because I do go to those places and I sit there like, oh, there's like, I feel like I'm wasting money because I'm just like wanting to participate socially versus where I could just have something and feel full, like, and like satisfied afterwards at home.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. And I resonate with the whole other people don't want that food sometimes. Because, for example, watercourse, I was like hardcore trying to convince my boyfriend for like 15 minutes to order from watercourse because they have good gluten-free options. He was like, I don't want vegan food. I was like, but why not? It's good.
You're like, yeah, exactly. You're like, we could all eat it. Like we can
Yeah,
all eat it. Like I don't understand why that's a bad thing.
right. But it is definitely hard socially sometimes. What would you say your biggest struggle is with eating out?
Just probably that I can't find something, or that I can eat, or that I'm worried that like not all the ingredients are listed. That's like been a huge thing. I've ordered something and they're like, "Oh, our dressing has dairy in it." And I'm like, "Oh, why? What? This looks like a vinaigrette. Like this doesn't look like it should have dairy in it." It's like, oh, what we do, but we do put that in there. And so
Right.
that's like a struggle, just not knowing exactly what's in my food.
Yeah, for sure. So, transitioning into the resources that we're trying to create, and I'm super glad that you're in Denver because you can utilize this now. But we went to around 40 restaurants in the Denver area to review them and get like super detailed information about their cross contact practices, what options they have for all the different allergens, including dairy, and then also building out different allergen menus for a few of the local restaurants that didn't have any resources at all. So like I went to Los Chingones, which is a Mexican restaurant the other day, and on there wrote like all the dairy-free options and the dairy-free modified options. So like exactly what you need to take off in order to make it dairy-free. So how would having those types of resources all in one location be able to change your eating out experience and the way that you socialize with your group of friends?
I would be more excited to go to these places, especially the ones that are participating in this, because it shows me that if they care, it's safe. I'm
Right.
gonna leave like actually eating something.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a huge game changer. I'm really proud that like there are restaurants that are willing to step up and do that. For one, I'm just shocked.
Yeah.
And I'm like very grateful that I do live here in Denver, because there are other cities, states in the country where they're kind of years behind. And that's what I was telling you. It feels very normal to me, but it's because like I've created my surrounding for that. So
Yeah, and it's definitely difficult. Like I went to probably like 200 restaurants and
what
so
do
only got a few of them to talk to me, but like once people understand that there are a bunch of individuals who have these allergens, they truly do want to help and give the time. It's just sometimes hard to like see at first why it would be a value add and why it's impactful to like people all around the area.
what do the people say that don't want to participate say to you?
Yeah, so a lot of them sometimes are scared because they don't want to get you sick. So that's part of the reason is they don't fully understand allergies and they don't feel like they have the time to learn it.
Mhm.
And so because of like COVID and the restaurants being extremely, extremely busy, it takes time to understand allergies. You know, it's not an easy thing. You have to understand that like there are certain procedures that you need to take in order for the allergen to completely be eliminated from the dish. And so there were loads of restaurants that were willing to, talk through that process and learn that process, or even already have that process in place. But for ones that don't see the initial value, they sometimes just think that it does take a little bit too much time, and they're at too great of risk for like basically people getting sick.
That's under, I understand that. It's
Yeah.
just like the liability there, so I get that.
Right, which it totally makes sense, but that's why we're doing these and why we're talking to people in the allergy community, is because it's something that is kind of under the radar right now. And on the surface, it doesn't seem like a lot of people experience these issues, because when you look at the numbers of people that are diagnosed with food allergies, it's not as large as the amount of people that actually have food allergies and intolerances
Oh,
because of gut health issues or autoimmune diseases or other reasons. And so bringing to the surface something like your story, which is like not uncommon, like I've talked to so many others that share in that struggle,
mhm.
like bringing that to the surface and showing others that it's, even though we're better about it, it's still really, really hard to eat out and you're still getting sick. That's what's going to help, the industry and other people realize that this is something that needs to be improved upon. And, with simple shifts, you can actually be able to cater to a bunch of people that really, really just want to eat out and enjoy a social experience.
I guess I just accepted it. I never thought it'd change, but you've given me hope.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, it like that makes me so happy because it like nobody should have to live like that, like nobody should have to miss out on an entire cultural experience and something that's shared between a group of people just because of a dietary restriction. I lived with it my entire life, and I have traveled to several different countries, and food is so much ingrained a part of our relationships and the way we experience our quality of life. And so it like you shouldn't have to do all the work and stay at home when there's so many options and so many restaurants that are willing to, serve you and keep you safe.
Also, I don't know, I'm sure you've run into this, but my boyfriend, he's Mexican, and it's like a culture thing to like feed you all the time. You know, every time I go over, his grandma's like, eat this, eat this. And it's just, it's almost disrespect. It is disrespectful. I know. And I feel so bad because I want to tell her, I can't eat that. You know, and so many people are like, oh, why is she not eating? That's just so rude. And
Right.
that's like also a thing that I also have dealt with. It's like people think that I just am being rude because I'm not eating. So that's
Yeah.
like another thing, like culturally too. If I any family gatherings that I have, I'm not eating or I bring my own food, and it's looked on as like a sign of disrespect when it's really because I just don't want to go home and sleep this off afterwards.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like you shouldn't have to go home and feel like shit. That would just suck. I definitely identify with that as well, because I remember going to social events and just not wanting to explain it. Even sometimes you're just like, I just don't want to go through the story because like it takes like 10 minutes and people are like, "Oh, what do you eat? Water?" And you're like, "No, I don't eat water." But yeah, it's just the whole like explanation and questions that you have to ask behind it. That's why we're trying to create these resources as well, so that you no longer have to go into a restaurant and ask like 1,000 questions before you order. You can just like look at the menu, look at the things on the app, and be like, okay, like flat tops contaminated, grills contaminated, I got to ask them to cook it in a pan. And so then you're just like kind of directing them rather than being like, I have to go through my whole process.
It is a thing. And then you're like, I don't want to be that person. And you're like,
Yeah, because it's hard. You're like sitting there talking for like 10 minutes and everybody else is like Can I have a burger?
You're like, this, does this have this? I mean, but does this have this? Like, are you sure? Are you
Right.
sure? Okay, now I want you to take this menu item and this one, and I want you to like, can you put those together and just like not do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're like, actually, I'm not gonna order anything on the menu because I don't know. So like, we're gonna guess.
I don't know. Like honestly, yeah. Or like I'll have a drink, and like sometimes too, and then I'm just like just drink. Like I'll have a drink with my friends, and then I'm just like not eating too. So there's that too.
Right. Absolutely, which is like frustrating. And that's what we're trying to solve. It's so you can have a normalized experience and
Mhm.
be able to look at a menu and be like, okay, dairy free modified. All I have to do is take off the cheese, cool. And then you're pretty much just ordering like everybody else.
And is this through MacroMenu?
Yeah, so it's through the app. So essentially, there's like four tabs. The first tab is just like your basic information. It will link to any menus that we've created with the restaurant. Then the second tab is like a community platform. So you can leave reviews on restaurants that you've been to and had a positive experience at, and or reply to other people to like ask them about their experience, ask clarifying questions. The third tab goes through their kitchen process. So it breaks down what their general allergy procedures are and any specialty items like organic, locally sourced, vegan, things like that. And then the last tab is that by allergen breakdown. So you just drop down your allergen and then it gives a super detailed write up of everything that I saw in the kitchen, from where you have risk from drip contamination to what goes on flat tops, grills, etc., like what you need to be aware of, what some of your options are.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, cool. Well, do you have any last thoughts or anything that you would like to tell others about what it's like to live with a dairy intolerance?
So I don't know. Now I'm like leaving like more like vocal about it. Now I want to be more vocal. Like I think for
Good.
so long I was just kind of like internally screaming, but
Yep.
now I don't know if you caused a problem because I have like a little bit of attitude change now. Like, no, you guys
Good.
need to do this for me. Like, I guess I'm just like I've been so like selfless, not really like caring, and I don't want to be that person, but I deserve to have the quality of life like every one of you guys,
Yeah.
and it's not my fault. That's another thing. That's not my fault. And I think that so many people have made me feel like it's my fault, and so that's why I haven't spoken up. But knowing and thinking and talking to you that there's a possibility where I can one day just come in and just, I don't have to modify anything or feel uncomfortable when the waiter comes around. Like, I hope he doesn't mess us up. That'll be fun. That'll be a good day. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes me so happy that you're able to have that attitude change, like even on this call, because that's the reason why there's no change in the industry right now, is because like it's been pinpointed on us that there's like something wrong with us. And so people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to stay in my bubble and I'm not going to like eat out or say anything about it because like it's just easier that way. And so it creates this environment in which like restaurants don't think that this is an issue sometimes. And like there are a ton that do recognize it. But for those that aren't regularly getting allergy customers, it's kind of this negative feedback loop because they're not getting allergy customers. Therefore, they don't think it's important, or don't see the value in it yet. So, bringing your voice to light and others like you, to show that this is a real issue and something that you're experiencing on a daily basis, that will allow other people to see that like there is a lot of change that can be created in this industry, and that it would be so unbelievably impactful to be able to have resources that make the experience normalized.
Well said. That
Thank you. Thank you. Cool. Well, I enjoyed talking to you, and I'm so glad that you're in Denver and that you get to utilize this now. Do you have any final last thoughts before we hop off?
that was really good. I'm very excited for this to come out, and next time, since I live just outside of Denver, the next time I go out to eat, I'm definitely eager to try this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.